don't tell the missus. She's not going to know that you came back here. Good morning, YouTube, or at least it's morning here, and it's the morning after a thunderstorm, a band of storms that sort of made their way across the southeast. We were prepared for those. We were told days ahead of time that this thing was coming. I think they called it a level 3 severe risk. Lots of hail in the general area, none here at our house, thankfully. Actually saw some rotations in various places nearby us, some serious damage along that, but we were spared, and we're really thankful of that. My tomatoes, however, suffered a little bit. You can see here that they have just gotten so tall, and getting some support for them is way, way, way overdue. But this poor little fella right here, 1, 2, 3 limbs, branches broken off, which is not too big a deal because they probably would have ended up being pruned anyway once I get them supported. Something had broken off here that would have been my main stem. Now I'm going to have to make this our main stem once I get the support up, so it'll be okay. But it's not going to be okay if I don't get something up for these guys to be supported by. Today's goal, today's #1 goal, is to get a trellising system up for these tomatoes before another day passes. If we have time, we need to put some supports up for the cucumber plants. I'm going to try something new this year. I'm going to let my zucchini climb a pole, or I'm going to experiment with 1 or 2 of those vines to see how that goes. My green beans are up after replanting those last week. I need to get the strings ready for them to climb. That's probably more than I'm going to be able to bite off today, because I also have to plant my sweet potatoes. They came yesterday. I built that box earlier in the week for them to grow in. Got to get those planted. First things first though, these tomatoes. The trellising system that I'm going to use, I'm going to reuse the cages that I used to use for the tomatoes back way long time ago. Last time I grew tomatoes, which I think I figured out was 7 years ago. I'm going to take you back here to a place, but shh, don't tell the missus. She's not going to know that you came back here. Why is my ground so soft here? I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I think that we have a new mole family that has moved in. That's something I'm going to have to deal with. Got to get these tomatoes up first. Take you back here to what my wife would unaffectionately call the junk pile. This is the back side of our storage building. You can see there's all of these tomato cages from times past. They're just made out of garden wire, nice little circular things that I would have the tomatoes growing in times past to support them. I'm going to use those, but not as cages. I'm going to unwrap them so I can create a trellising system. The vertical uprights that I'm going to put this hardware, it's not hardware cloth, garden wire on, that's what this is. It's going to be those poles that you may have seen me pull up in a prior video. I'll put a link to it somewhere up here. Click on it. When I got the old garden plot ready and had to pull up the standing supports that I had used for my green beans at that time, they're right here. I'll put those as posts in the ground so I can attach all of this cage wire to that, giving the tomatoes a place to climb and be supported by. Let's get on it because the day is half past and there's a lot to be done. Got the trellis system up. I've got the tomatoes tied to it. I've actually got some blossoms starting to form on some of the vines. There's some blossoms here on the San Marzano. The Amish paste has got some blossoms, and of course I pruned below all of the fruit-bearing branches. I've got to come back and tape this one up. This one kind of tore on me. Another Amish paste, blossoms. Here is our better boy. There's the blossoms right there. I left this branch on just to provide something to feed the plant. This cherry tomato doesn't seem to have any fruit-bearing branches yet. Hopefully that will change. And this is the poor Amish paste that got beat up in the storm last night. I pruned some additional branches, but there's nothing fruit-bearing on here yet. Hoping that changes. Here's another Amish paste. Really strong main vine. There's the blossom right here. Hoping I can get this thing to straighten up a little bit. That'll support it. And the final San Marzano. And there's nothing fruit bearing on here yet. Oh, I'll take that back. I think that right there at the end of my finger is going to be a fruit bearing branch, which means I'll need to prune everything underneath here. I'll come back to that a little later. Got to stand in the shade. These overalls are hot, but I wore those because I didn't want to get stuck with wire while I was doing this today. The trellising is up for the tomatoes. That's a good thing. They need to be supported. However, as you can see, it's now in the front of our house. And it's not exactly the most attractive structure. Rusted out wire and electrical conduit. I'm gonna try to pretty that up as best I can for the sake of the missus. It might be a lost cause. We'll try. Time to take a break, go grab some lunch. After lunch, try to get this other stuff out here in the main garden, support it, get the cucumber trellis going, get that one zucchini plant, or maybe two zucchini plant trellises going, and start on the beans. Oh, and I've got to plant the sweet potatoes. I'm going to take the opportunity to wrap this thing up just in case this storm comes through and I don't get a chance to. I got the two most important things done that I needed to get done today. I got those tomatoes trellised and I got the sweet potatoes planted. I put one in a fabric bag. Ta-da! And I put the rest in the bed that I built in an earlier video. Voila! And I got to thinking as I was filling this thing up and thinking about how I was going to wrap up this video, I need to apologize if I'm acting like I know what I'm doing, because I don't. I'm just trying to grow some vegetables for us to eat, which most people are able to do with a modicum of success. And I'm just experimenting with some things just to see how much I can grow. That's easier thought than said, apparently. And as I have said before, this is really a lab. This is really supposed to be an experiment. There is, however, this part of me that is forgetting the experimental nature of this. And you know, we bought a canner and we bought like 14,000 jars to can all of our stuff in this summer. And even if everything grew perfectly like we expected to, it ain't gonna produce enough produce, I don't think, for all the jars that we have purchased. We'll just be prepared. Still a couple other things I need to do before I can go in for the evening. Hopefully I can get it done before this storm comes down. I would like to go ahead and get the cucumbers trellised up. I would like to go ahead and see if I can just get a stake in the ground for this zucchini. I'm not going to worry too much about the beans. Let me show you those real fast. As you can see, they came up just like I knew they would. Those other ones have been planted way too deep. I'll need to thin them out here in another couple days. I'll give them all a chance to come up, and I'll decide how I want to space them out. These are spaced pretty tight in here. I'll be honest with you though, I tend to grow my beans pretty tight together. Back when I grew them on the hills, we got plenty of beans. They were tasty, produced it tons, They were tasty, they produced tons of beans for us. So I'm a little inclined to leave these close together. Not quite this close, I'll thin them out a little bit. The other thing that still eludes me in terms of time to make it happen, and that's to get some mulch down on this weed cloth. Because yes, it's great, the weed cloth is down, but look at that. This weed, this wild strawberry, is growing so strong underneath it still that it's lifting up the cloth. And I've got to get some chopped leaves, some straw or something down here. Otherwise, all my work is going to go to naught. And it's going to take a good 4 inches just to weigh this stuff back down. That ain't happening today though. That I do know. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching this thing to the end. If you liked it, will you do me a favor? Will you give it a thumbs up and even share it with somebody who may have the same crazy dream as I, or wants to see somebody with the crazy dream try to succeed at turning his suburban property into a suburban homestead. If you want to keep up with all the antics and mistakes and maybe successes that I have, go ahead and give it a subscribe. Maybe even click that notification bell. We're gonna let that siren go by before we close it though. I don't want that in the background. I think it's far enough away now. Always remember, the one who created you made you able to create also. So get out there and make it, grow it, and live it.